is formed by axons of neurons of spinal ganglia. Sensory neurons lies out of CNS in spinal ganglia. These neurons, they are about 50,000 neurons. The axons form what? Radix dorsalis, sensory root. Passes through what group? Dorsolateral group into the CNS. And forms synapse. This posterior root forms synapse on intermediary conducting neurons of posterior root. For example, nucleus proprius, nucleus thoracicus, substantia gelatinosa, zona terminalis, and so on. And these intermediary neurons can pass their impulse into the motor neurons, anterior root neurons. In anterior root, what neurons we have? Motor neurons. What is the anterior root? It consists of by axons
of
motor neurons of anterior horn. You must explain motor neurons in CNS. There are so many motor neurons. You must explain just in what part of the motor neurons of anterior horns. Axons of motor neurons of anterior horns form anterior root. The tree has root. Yes, root. Root give what part of the tree? Trunk. Just spinal nerve has after junction. What part it has? The trunk of the spinal nerve. It is very short, about 0.5 and 1.5 centimeters. About 1 centimeter. This short part of junction of the motor and sensory roots forms spinal nerve. That's once more. Posterior root is sensory. Anterior root is motor. On the way of the posterior root, what structure we have? The sensory spinal ganglia. The anterior and posterior sensory and dorsal roots, they join together and form spinal nerve. Mixed spinal nerve consists of sensory and motor fibers. But you must keep in your mind, we don't turn your attention on the vegetative fibers. They are also arise through anterior root. Anterior root contains also vegetative fibers which arise from lateral horn neurons. Do you remember in lateral horn we have both vegetative, sympathetic, intermediary neuron. The axons also pass through anterior root and mix. But now we don't talk about vegetative. We will return. Next topic after spinal nerves will be vegetative. You must keep in your mind. It is so thin portion of the anterior root. We don't say about this portion, but they pass. They are mixed. Just spinal nerve. They are sensory and motor. And to these motor fibers intermixed with motor fibers, these vegetative fibers also. The spinal nerve leaves vertebral canal. Where is located spinal cord? In vertebral canal. Surrounded by three meninges, three tunics. Arachnoid and pyometer. Where is the subarachnoid fluid flows? Arachnoid. We have not arachnoid. We have epidural, subdural, and subarachnoid. In subarachnoid, between arachnoid and pyometer. And duramater also continues, forms perinebrium of the spinal nerves, and ganglia, spinal ganglia with the short spinal nerve. Where is located? In intervertebral foramen. Leaves this intervertebral foramen, and just here it is divided in 4 branches. What 4 branches? You have marked only 2. Anterior and posterior. You can see differences of the anterior and posterior. What is the differences? They contains both an anterior and posterior. What fibers? Sensory and motor. They are both mixed, but anterior is more thick and they are more longer. They go to the limbs, to the anterior surface of the trunk. Dorsal branches, rami dorsalis, they are more thin and more shorter, and they pass on only on dorsal surface of the body and innervates the dorsal part of the body, the skin and muscle, autotonic, proper muscles of the, and this picture of the dorsal branches. We have dorsal muscles and dorsal, what branches? Here you can see dorsal. They are more thin. Rami-dorsalis. Cutaneous branches and muscular. What structures innervate spinal nerves? The anterior root, posterior. Sensory branches innervate skin, yes? Synovial capsule of the joints. Sensory fibers to the joints, to the bones, to the muscles. And motor fibers innervate muscle. Skin and muscle, skin and muscle. But vegetative fibers also will pass together with the anterior and posterior roots. And this vegetative portion will innervate. We have sebaceous and sweat glands in the skin, yeah, of the limbs and body. And these glands and smooth muscles, musculus erector pili, hair of the skin, they have smooth muscles. In this dog, we have musculus erector pili, which stretches. And erects on contraction. They receive vegetative innervation, and muscles also receive vegetative innervation. Thus, when we describe vegetative reflex arc after somatic reflex arc, when we start vegetative nervous system, we will describe vegetative. You must know that vegetative reflex arc consists of, here, you can see contents of the anterior root. This is what root? Posterior, sensory. This is what root? Anterior. Anterior is not only motor, red color, but also vegetative. And this vegetative portion, after intervertebral foramen, is separated. It is separated from spinal nerve and goes to vegetative spinal ganglia. It has white myelin sheet. That is why it is called ramus communicans. It goes for communication with spinal ganglia. Ramus communicans. Albus. That is why it is white. Alba, white. White communicating fibers. Separate vegetative portion to the spinal ganglia. This branch give only from 8 cervical until lumbar 2. Only in thoracic segments of the spinal cord with the spinal anterior roots, nerves anterior roots, arise this branch, ramus communicans albus. But after synapsing in ganglia, postganglionic fibers also join to each spinal nerve. Dorsal branch, ventral. What branch are? Rami dorsalis, rami ventralis. This vegetative portion also intermixed with ventral dorsal branches. It loses its myelin sheet, white color sheet. That is why it is called, after communication, ramus communicans grisae. About this branch we will describe in vegetative system. We will talk in vegetative system. Now only from spinal nerve arises ramus communicans albus. But when vegetative nerves will describe, you must remember that with each spinal nerve intermixed vegetative portion, which will innervate glands, smooth muscles of the vessels, musculus erector pili, and also muscles. After section of this ramus communicantus grisae in experiments on animals, atrophy of the muscles develops. Sympathetic fibers sends trophic fibers to the muscles on section. And also function of this muscle. For example, do you know what diagnosis, clinic example I will give? Hyperhidrosis. Hyperhidrosis. It is hypersecretion of sweat glands. You know, some people have this hypersecretion, even sweat fluid flows from hands in axillary region, and this patient need in dissection of these sympathetic fibers, or not dissect these fibers. Many years ago, dissect these fibers which go to corresponding region. For example, in thoracic segments, rami communicans grisae, if we dissect, this reduce secretion of the sweat glands, the innervation of the sweat glands. But now use many injection of preparation which block this secretion of the neurotransmitter, the neuromediator transmitter, and block this secretion of the sweat glands, especially in subclavicular region injected, and block this secretion. Thus, remember that in ramus dorsalis ventralis, in this topic, we will describe only branches to the skin and to the muscles. But vegetative will explain also in the skin glands and smooth muscles of the skin and trophic fibers to the muscles. It is very thin portion. Now we will describe sensory nerve. That what branch gives? Dorsal branch, ventral. Dorsal will innervate this part, dorsal part of the neck. It is nuchal region. Remember, when we say neck, we consider the neck only anterior part of the neck. This anterior, medial triangle, lateral triangle, and the radius sternocleidomastoides. The posterior part of the neck, nuchal region. It is functionally connected with muscles of the back. Extension, the muscles of the back, erector spine. That is why it is described as part of the back. Dorsal part of the neck, dorsal part of the back, innervated by rami dorsalis. Ventral part of the body, ventral musculature, ventral part of the neck, ventral part of the thorax, abdomen. And also from ventral part are developed our upper limbs, from ventral musculature are developed upper limbs, lower limbs. That is why, by what branches will innervate it? Our ventral part of the body and upper lower limbs. By anterior branch, rami ventralis, which are more thick, and when go they from segment to the upper limb until end or lower limb, they intermix with fibers, change with fibers, and form plexi. Plexus cervicalis, plexus brachialis, plexus lumbalis, and sacralis, and sometimes it is described as plexus lumbosacralis. These anterior branches only form, which are long and intermixed. Only anterior branches form spinal plexi. Dorsal branches, they have what structure? Metameric or spinal nerves innervates what structures? Derivatives of somite. Our body consists of about 43-45 pairs of the somite. Each part of somite consists of dermatome, scleratome, and myotome. Spinal nerves during development arise from the spinal cord and pass into the somite of the body. And what structures innervate? From the dermatome, what is developed? Skin. From myotome, muscle. And scleratome, our connective tissue fibers, bones, joints of the skeleton. The spinal nerves, what structure innervates? Skin, muscles, joints, their capsule, bones. You understand? And only in thoracic region, the spinal nerves retain their metameric structure. They arise from segment and go to corresponding parts of the body, from which is developed this somite. But on the peripheral part, these branches overlap with each other. We have segmental innervation. This is segmentary innervation of the body. Only long anterior branches, they intermixed in cervical, brachial, and lumbosacral region and form plexi. What plexi we have? Plexus cervicalis, brachialis. In thoracic, they retain their metameric structure. And plexus lumbalis sacralis, which together connect by lumbosacral trunk, together described as plexus lumbosacralis. Thus our limbs, muscles, and skin innervated by what branches? Anterior or posterior? Anterior. That is why when you will explain plexi, plexus cervicalis, brachialis, lumbalis, you will, what sentence give? Common for each other. This plexus is formed by anterior branches, anterior or ventral branches, anterior branches. It is common part. Then you will name in each region both nerves. Remember 4. It is rule of the 4. Not rule of the 4. In each part 4. cervical. The cervical plexus is formed by upper and superior four cervical. The anterior branch form the cervical plexus. Anterior branch, they form cervical plexus. Anterior branch of the C5 until C8, and also anterior branch of the C4 and thoracic first. Thoracic first. They form brachial plexus. You must remember that each plexus has obligated part 4 and additional part. Only in cervical part, cervical plexus, it has only C1, C4 anterior branches. C1, C4, how you can explain? Anterior branches of upper 4 cervical spinal nerves. From 1st to 4th, anterior branches. But brachial plexus from 5th to 8, we have 8 cervical, yes? It is obligated portion, but additional, also you will add 4 cervical and the 1st thoracic also participate, additional portion participate. And the lumbar plexus, when you will explain formation of the lumbar plexus, how you will explain? Obligated. Anterior branches of lumbar 1, lumbar 4. With participation of the thoracic 12th anterior branch, which is called nervus subcostalis. It passes under the 12th rib. That is why it is called nervus subcostalis. With participation of the 12th thoracic. And remember, only upper portion of the lumbar 4 participates. Lower portion of the lumbar 4 joins with lumbar 5 and joined with sacral plexus. The sacral plexus obligated portion, sacral 1, sacral 4. In some textbooks may be wrong, sacral 3, it is wrong, sacral 4. Sacral 4, change Russian book on this book, sacral 4, which is very important. Only 4, every region 4. With participation of lumbar 4 inferior part, lumbar 5, they form the they form sacral plexus with S1, S4. But 4, as you can see, the 4th lumbar participate in lumbar upper parts, in sacral lower part. That is why these two plexi, they connected by means lumbar sacral trunk, so-called lumbar sacral trunk. Just a minute, I will find this picture. This is lumbar plexus, this is sacral plexus. The lower portion of the lumbar 4, together with lumbar 5, it goes and mixed with sacral. This is lumbar sacral trunk, which from lumbar goes to the sacral mixed. This portion is called truncus lumbosacralis. 4th, 5th, lower portion of the 4th, upper goes to the lumbar, lower to the sacral, with 5th and with S1, S4 from the sacral plexus. It is first part for sacral plexus. You will explain in accordance with plan. You have the plan of answer of cranial nerves. Do you remember plan of answer cranial nerves? And now for spinal nerves plexi. How you will explain plan of the answer of the spinal nerves? First, the Latin name of the plexus. Plexus cervicalis, brachialis, lumbalis sacralis. Then, second point, you will explain formation of this plexus. Do you understand how you will explain? What sentence will be? Anterior branches. For each, you will explain what anterior branches. Cervical, C1, C4. Brachial, this. Lumbar, this, and sacral. L1, L4. Formation. Second point, you will explain how is the
formation of the
plexus. The first, you will explain localization, topography. Where is located this plexus? All plexi are located in the thickness of the muscles. They are located in the thickness of the muscles. Cervical plexus is located on the thickness of the muscle. At first, please all students, if you want effectively study spinal nerves and understand their function, you must take your first volume book, this volume, muscles. I remember in what side note short period you passed muscles last year. No? You will group by group, no origin, insertion, functional group of muscles of each region. Today, what muscles you will revise? Muscles of the neck, muscles of the upper limb, muscles of the thorax and back. Revise these muscles. For example, thorax, what muscles? Superficial and deep. Superficial what? Pectoralis major, minor, subclavius, serratus anterior. Deep are intercostal, external, internal, transversus thoracis, subclavius and superficial. Then, muscles of the back, superficial, deep, superficial trapezius, latissimus dorsi, rhomboidae, levator scapulae, and so on. Why these muscles, superficial muscles, superficial muscles of the thorax and back? Remember, by development, they are developed with from ventral musculature. But during development, muscles of the back transform superficial muscles of the back. They are transplaced to they are developed from ventral musculature with the limbs and transplaced to the back. That is why they are also innervated from brachial plexus, ventral branches of the cervical spinal nerves. Superficial muscles of the back and superficial muscles of the thorax, they attach to upper limb. They are connected with development of the limb. But they are, we have two groups of muscles, trunca pedal and trunca fugal. From the body goes to the upper limb, or from upper limb goes to the body. This group of muscles, thoracic and back muscles, superficial, by development connected with the limb, Limb is innervated by ventral branches. That is why the superficial thoracic and dorsal muscles also will innervated by brachial plexus. That is why you must revise this muscle. Do you understand? Only deep muscles of the back will be innervated by rami dorsalis nervus spinalis, autochtonic group, the proper muscles, autochtonic, aborigine group. Do you understand? Development explains why the muscles, for example, latissimus dorsi, innervate why from brachial plexus, or rhomboidae muscle, by development. They are connected with development of clavicula, scapula, humerus, attached here, but displaced on this region and innervated with by the ventral branches. Some muscles displaced from the head on the neck. What nerves innervate muscles of the head? Cranial nerves. On the head, what group of muscles we have? Two groups. Mimetic and masticatory. What pairs of the cranial nerve innervate? Trigeminal, masticatory, facial muscles, facial nerve. Yeah? But two muscles from the head transplaced on the neck. What muscles? Trapezius and sternocleidomastoideus. That is why they are innervated by what cranial nerves? Accessorious, 11 pairs. 11 pairs innervates only two muscles, sternocleidomastoideus and trapezius, innervated by 11 pairs. But if they are located here, but additional branches, they will receive also from what plexus? The cervical plexus also sends branches to this muscle. Development explains all sources of innervation, where the muscle at first lies, limbs innervated by anterior branch, and muscles, future, the germ of the muscles, also develop here. They receive from ventral branch, and then with the development transplace on the back, and that is why they are innervated by rami ventralis of the spinal nerve, by the brachial plexus. Do you understand what muscles group you will revise? Muscles of the head with cranial nerves, neck, upper limb, thorax and back. For the next we'll continue. Lumbar and sacral will continue. Muscles of abdomen, pelvic region. We have not any time. We have November, December. For example, parallel we study without muscles and dia topography. Also revise topography. We'll describe nerves in what grooves, what canal paths. The name of these canals, their openings, it is also important. Parallel study. And study not last evening all plexi together, all cranial nerves. Every classes. Today I'll ask cranial nerves, but I planned that I will ask, but 2 groups, and Nele Alexeyevna I've made that I will explain all topics today to you. In accordance with plan, we'll continue. We'll explain name, formation, topography. Usually all plexi are located in the thickness of the muscle. We are located the cervical plexus in the thickness muscles of the neck. Between what muscles? Medially, it is musculus scalenus anterior and longus colli. Laterally, scalenus medius and levator scapulae. Levator scapulae, splenius, cervix muscles. Scalene, between scalene muscle, in the thickness of the scalene muscle and anterior group of the deep muscle, they are longus colli, longus capitis. Between this muscle are located in the thickness and arise between these muscles, thickness of the neck muscles. That is why we'll innervate all these muscles of the neck. Revise these deep muscles, scalene muscle, levator scapulae, and longus colli, longus capitis, rectus capitis, lateralis anterior. This is cervical plexus. Brachial plexus, where is located the brachial plexus? It is located between anterior and middle scalene muscle. It is famous space, intermuscular. It is called trigonum interscalenum. Interscalene trigon between scalenus anterior, scalenus medius. We have trigonum interscalenum. Interscalene space, trigonum interscalenum. Scala, do you understand this? They are one behind the other, attached to the first rib and to the second rib. We have 3 scalene muscle. Like stairs, да? Stairs. Scala is stair. Brachial plexus lies in what space? Interscalene. With what artery? Remember, contents of this space. What artery lies in this space? Subclavian artery. It has portion before interscalene space, in the interscalene space, after. Arteria subclavia branch of brachiocephalic trunk on right side and left side directly from arch of aorta. I remind you. This plexus brachialis and arteria subclavia are located in what space? Together. Spatium interscalene. Lumbar plexus lies in the thickness of the psoas-Meyer muscle, and so on. Then we'll continue next classes. This muscle, psoas-Meyer, psoas minor, in the thickness of this muscle. The sacral plexus lies on piriformis muscle in the pelvic cavity. Just topography in the thickness of the muscles of corresponding region. They are located. After this topography, explanation of the topography, you will explain the branches of the spinal nerves. What type of branches gives? Usually they give short and long branches. Branches of the plexi. Next point, you will explain branches of the plexi. Usually it gives short branches. Short, they are muscular to the corresponding muscles in the thickness of which are located, yes? To what muscles will give? The cervical plexus has muscular branches. To what muscles will give? Scalenus anterior, medius, to the longus colli, longus capitis, rectus capitis, lateralis anterior. They are called anterior, medial, and lateral. Medial and lateral deep muscles of the neck, and also levator scapulae, and also sternocleidomastoideus and trapezius will receive muscular branches. Long branches. The cervical plexus has only one long branch. Phrenic nerve. Nervus phrenicus. But in brachial plexus, long branch, short branch will innervate what part?
Shoulder.
Shoulder region muscles. Brachial plexus. Near the brachial plexus, what short muscles are located? Shoulder girdle muscles. Shoulder girdle.